Hi, I'm Drew Saur, and today we're going to talk about 3 essential ideas behind habit management. Now, habits are a topic that's become much more popular over the last couple of years. There have been numerous books written on the subject. You may have heard of A Power of Habit, Atomic Habits, Tiny Habits, and they're all actually very good. So if you want to understand the psychology behind habits, you want to get a bit more in depth in terms of how you change them, read one of those and you'll learn a lot. What I wanted to do today is simply cover what I think are the 3 most fundamental ideas that it's important to understand when you manage your habits. Now, why is this important? It's important because most of the actions we take every day are based on habits. They're kind of things we just do. We do them automatically. And so when you think about it from a career perspective, you want to make sure you have the most effective habits you can because, again, most of your day is simply repeating those habits. The good thing about habits is they're changeable. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So here's the 3 key ideas. So the first idea is simply that you cannot remove a habit. So a lot of times we have things we think of as bad habits. In the work context, you might procrastinate on certain tasks. There might be somebody that you tend to get really frustrated with all the time, and you want to stop doing that. So idea number 1 is you can't stop. The only thing you can do is replace. So if you have a bad habit, you can't, quote, get rid of that bad habit. You need to find a better habit and basically install that over the old habit and replace it. So again, number 1 is always think about what's the new behavior that you actually want to do. Don't think of it as trying to get rid of an old behavior. So new behaviors. Number 2 is that habits always have a consequence. There's a reason that we do them, and there's some benefit to us. So in order to install a new habit, you have to make sure that the consequences and the benefits are stronger than the old one. That's really the only test as to whether a new habit will stick, is are the consequences better? Now, the old habits often have really strong benefits, and it may not be obvious to you. So some habits like procrastination, well, why would I keep doing that? Well, the reason is because there's a certain thing that you get out of it. And I'm not sure what it would be for you, but as an example, that kind of habit has a lot of certainty to it. Meaning you know what's going to happen. So you procrastinate, you don't get it done, you're going to work all night, you're going to finish it up, you're going to turn it in. It's a bad night, but it'll be fine. Because you've done it dozens of times, however many times you've done it. So there's a certain value to that certainty. Doing something new is scary, right? You don't actually know what's going to happen. So that may seem, well, that can't be that powerful, but the reality is it can be extremely powerful because we like, as humans, to have a certain amount of certainty. So that's just one example. So you have to really dig in to figure out what benefit are you getting from that habit, and then come up with something with your new habit that's even more powerful. And that's where you have to get creative. And you can have positive consequences, you can celebrate, you can just feel good about yourself for doing it. But the reality of the way humans work is that negative consequences are more powerful than positive. We run away from pain more so than we go to pleasure if both are present. So how can you make it kind of painful if you don't do it? And again, this doesn't need to be physically painful, but as a simple idea, tell somebody, right? Tell somebody you trust, hey, I'm going to exercise for the next 30 days, whatever the habit it happens to be. Why is that helpful? Because you've now made an out loud commitment, and if you don't do it, it's going to feel embarrassing. You're going to feel a little bit of shame. You're going to feel a little bit of a negative emotion, which can be very motivating. And people take this to the extreme. One of my sort of favorite stories, and I'm sort of amazed that this exists, is that there are sites out there that will let you set up significant consequences to you. As an example, you can actually sort of set a donation to an organization you hate. Right? Something you would never do in a million words. Someone you think is really the antithesis of everything you believe in. There are actually sites where you can go and you can put up, $10, $100, whatever you think is sort of valuable enough to you. And you say, if I do not exercise for the next 30 days, make a donation in my name to this organization that I hate. And then what you do is you kind of give the keys to that to somebody else. So you don't judge for yourself because it's too easy, right, to kind of cheat. So you effectively give the certification of that to somebody else. And if they don't sign off that you've done it, the donation kind of goes. So again, pretty extreme. I haven't done that myself, but very, very effective because you've made a significant consequence to not installing that new habit. So again, just kind of recap. Number 1, you're replacing a habit, you're not removing a habit. Number 2, You need to make sure that the new habit has a stronger consequence to you than the old one. And finally, number 3, simply try it out. And the way you can tell whether or not it worked is by watching your new behavior. If your new behavior sits and you start doing it, that's great. If it doesn't, that means you need to go back to step 2. You need to kind of build up that consequence. You need to tell more people. You need to sort of set up penalties for yourself if you don't do it, or create more pleasure, throw a party whenever you do it. But you need to increase the consequences, and that's effectively all you need to do. You check it out. If it doesn't work, set the new consequences. And another way you can kind of tell is which one feels more uncomfortable. Right? Think of the habits you've had for many years. So for me, I drive around, I wear a seatbelt. I've been doing it for decades. If I'm ever in a car that's traveling at speed and I don't have a seatbelt on, I actually feel very uncomfortable because I'm so ingrained in putting my seatbelt on. That's the sign that a habit has stuck. So you want to start exercising, you do it for 30 days. If you feel worse not exercising, that's a good sign that you've installed an exercise habit. And again, this can be done for any aspect of your life, but obviously from this series, it's the idea of, okay, trying to think about this in a work context. What can you do? How can you improve the behaviors, delivery, whatever the case may be? You can use this from a productivity perspective to make sure that you're advancing your career as best you can. So again, 3 ideas. You can't lose a habit. You simply replace it. You replace it by creating something new with a greater consequence, and then you have to test it out. If it doesn't stick, all you do is go back to step 2 and increase the consequences of that habit. And there you go. 3 essentials of habits. So I hope you found that useful. As always, if you want some more in-depth videos, you can go to my site and take my free Next Level crash course, which talks about a system that you can use to look at your career and advance it on your own terms. And all you have to do is go to drewsaur.com/nextlevel and sign up. So once again, I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to seeing you next time.